Hi, I'm Tony Facilli. I'm Stephen Hunter
And I'm Alan Barrelero, and we're the supervising animators.
of The Incredibles,
otherwise known as
the three
Caballeros.
Hi, I'm Genia, an animator.
And I'm Dave. I'm also an animator.
I'm Kareha. I'm an animator.
I am Dave Mullins, animator.
I'm John Cars, animator.
Robert Russ, animator.
Angus MacLean, animator.
I'm Travis Hathaway. I worked on a few sequences here in The Incredibles.
Doug Frankel worked on a few sequences on The Incredibles.
Peter Sohn, I'm proud to have said that I've worked on this film as an animator.
This is the best film we'll ever work on. So there's some amazing animation here by Mike Stocker.
This is a tough assignment for your second shot.
Yeah.
It's like,
here you go. First shot of the film. Have fun.
Adam Burke. His first shot too. And CG.
An interesting thing that I think every hand-drawn animator that came on the picture, including myself, is we're used to timing our drawings differently than you would on the computer, where the hand-drawn animation, you time it pretty much every other frame you do a drawing. The computer, it's on what we call ones. It's every single frame, there's a different pose or a different movement. So we had to, if you're thinking on twos, which is every other frame, and you translate to ones, it looks a little watery. Things get a little swishy and slow. And that happened to me, and it seemed like every 2D guy, their first scene got a little bit sloshy and slow.
When you're doing it,
and then we had to,
your brain fills in the gap.
Brain fills in the gap, man.
That's Brad would always say, put it in the fridge, I think, right? That we had to eventually there's a certain point where you get to put away your shot for a little while and go on to other stuff and kind of get your chops and kind of reps in and then go back to the shot, and it'd be a lot easier to kind of finish in between.
It's a couple of these shots that they're long enough that the animators spent like majority of the production working on them.
Yeah. They probably came back many, many times for little dialogue tweaks and everything over the course of the production.
So Brad's whole idea about having the interviews at the beginning was kind of a calm beginning to then an action opening. He wanted people to go, wait a minute, what movie did I just say I was going to see?
The first scene I did was Mrs. Hoganson saying, what did she say?
Denied.
And two things I learned on that. For one thing, timing on twos and then going directly to ones doesn't work. You need to respace everything. But also, in hand-drawn stuff, you're always looking for ways to make things feel pliable. So you squash and stretch everything, and everything is changing shape. With a 3D puppet, you do that, and it looks like you feel like you're going to hear the skull bone crack. Doesn't look right. You got to be really subtle with it. And I remember I overdid that head squash and stretch, remember?
Oh, yeah.
And I had to pull it back, and then I kept pulling it back, and pretty soon I got rid of it. Just use the facial stuff. It's kind of like you have the control that you have when you're doing hand-drawn, where you can pretty much redo things until you get it the way you like it. But they're puppets. They're stop-motion puppets. In stop-motion, you don't have the control. You're pretty much pushing the puppet one frame at a time, and you're kind of stuck with what you have. So it's kind of an interesting combination of the two.
Finding the right balance, where you don't. Doug Sweeney will hate me for saying this, but to feel it rather than see the squash that's going on. You just kind of feel it a little bit in the head.
Right. It was a thing that John Cars said, that told Peter Sohn, because Pete did a scene that was looking a little animation-y, like flourishy, we call it, which is something that you sometimes do when you're a little bit bored with a scene.
Too many gestures.
Yeah, you kind of get a little, the head does a little too much stuff, and you wag the hands around because you're just trying to come up with something. John said, no fluff. So he wrote it down on a piece of paper and stuck it on it.
No
monitor,
fluff.
no fluff.
Nice.
How do you think Brad fared changing from the medium 2D to 3D? Learning process for him too?
Yeah.
For a long time, he kept referring to them as drawings.
Yeah, he called them drawings, and he actually started using some technical terms by the end.
TZ.
I think it was difficult too that
was one of the 50 million controls.
That was difficult too, that the same in 2D you'd rough out your scene, you'd animate the key poses, then you're handing it off to clean up, and that is the same person. In computers, you're going to finish off the scene and in between it and get everything in there, and that was another thing.
Yeah, he found himself, because in 2D you approve the rough scene.
Right.
Sometimes maybe some of the in-betweens aren't in there. And then if you have a good assistant, sometimes if it's off model, I let him, it's done, it's done in rough animation, but that was an adjustment for him. Like he final the scene before it was really, all right, that's good to go, but it really wasn't finished.
Well, he's thinking some down the road, somebody's going to take care of it.
Yeah.
Either put it on model or
Right,
The
right.
in between is probably, no, that's me, same person.
Yeah.
You can see,
Yeah.
you know, they're doing both.
I remember the first time we looked at a scene, a test scene of Bob that Angus had done, and Angus animates, where you see all the in-betweens on ones.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
blocks it out, but you're seeing it move, and it was, Brad and I were like, huh? Because we're used to seeing pose tests where you just see a single drawing and you go bomb, bomb, and
Pop.
pose. And that's all you're seeing. You're like, if it's a 4-phrase scene or 4 basic ideas in the scene, you see 4 drawing. But we're seeing things kind of moving in and out. It was it was hard to make the call on that.
What about the
Eventually we
what
get.
about the character floating around in space with just the legs kind of not even animated?
Yeah. It
Just
was
walking,
adjustment.
like walking,
Yeah, it's bouncing up and down.
bouncing up and down. That really throws.
That was nervous for us
Mhm.
too. I think, like having Brad and everybody come here, and you wanted to prove to them that,
Mm-hmm.
that this could be that humans are the most difficult thing to animate, 2D and 3D, and kind of prove to them that we could do it.
It really was a different language. He was really bringing something new to it, making us pay attention to our poses so much more than I think we ever did.
Mhm.
As a group.
That was another thing that was interesting too, because we kind of got the characters done fairly quickly in terms of their geometry or whatever. I didn't realize how intense the articulation phase was going to be.
Yeah.
Getting all those controls was going to take such a long time. It was so complex and so involving. And that was Steve.
Oh yeah.
Did that. And that was
who else? Angus and John Charles.
Yeah.
Dave Mullins and
Rob
Russ. How do we make them as loose as possible and make them make sense so it's not like you're overbuilding something, putting too many controls in a car, and pretty soon you can't drive it because there's just so much stuff. It was finding a balance between keeping it visual and keeping it simple, but getting everything we wanted in it.
Well, in this film, we have something that we've never done before. We haven't done muscles before. We have muscles in this film. We have a ton of cloth. Everybody's in clothes, hair. And it's not only like, okay, Bob's got his tuxedo outfit that he wears for the entire film. He's got about like 8 or 9 different
Comparing
outfits.
it to like Monsters, where Sully was Sully for the whole film, and they had to cover him with snow in one sequence, but then Mike didn't have really anything, and Boo just had a shirt. I think it was something like, I'm just going to guess, but 40 or 50 costume changes throughout the whole film, maybe more than that, but different hairstyles. Helen has 2 hairstyles. And then they'd have to tweak the hair parameters per shot, depending on what's going on in the shot. It was an immense amount of work to get that stuff to look right. And then from our standpoint, the environment the animator would work in, the Tom Hahn and his people in the animation tools group did a lot of work to give us a whole new set of tools to work with. In camera controls to pose the character. We had this new timing tool that we called X Sheet, inspired by the old, traditional animators X Sheet, where we could time out shots with just images. So we'd say, pose out 5 different poses, and you could just time those images, and that would save you a lot of time in trying to figure out the acting in a shot. In every character, we had a full set of constraints in the character where you could constrain a body part to another body part, which sounds like, of course, you'd want to be able to constrain the hand to the head, but we actually couldn't do that in previous films.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that we knew. This was such a physical film, we were going to have to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Some of the stuff hasn't changed at all, though, which, like some of the tools that we use for like 10 years, and even though it kind of sounds boring, some of the input tools that we use to animate have hardly changed at all, and it's kind of just testament to how simple and effective they are. Like,
absolutely.
Like MDT is like a pencil to me now. It's always the same. And
MDT is one of the tools that we use to be the uninitiated.
Monsters, for example, there wasn't really a rig. You would just set up the character from scratch each time. And the thing that let us get all these characters, I mean, Bon Perignon is Frozone.
Yeah.
We'll get him eventually.
So that John Walker and we were going, okay, we got to build background characters, and that included like the Bon Voyage character and everybody, and we were like, well, okay, how are we going to do that? Because we need to build like a universe of people. Well, okay, I need 6 female models that I can pull around, and I need 6 male models I can pull around to get different shapes. Can't afford that. Okay, so Johnny Walker says, nope, can't afford it. You're like, okay, well, I need 3 of each. No, can't afford it. And finally, we got down to 1 model. And we're like, okay, we get 1 model, and we get a quarter of the time to do it that we did most of our main characters, but we had to build the universe out of these guys.
Oh, this is Johnny Walks right here, too.
That's Johnny Walker.
For those who want to know.
There you go.
Voice of the Priest.
Voice of the Priest.
He's not that old. He probably aged this much, so, on this film. Us torturing him.
nagging him.
You want to finish? That you,
Oh,
one guy was one.
Yeah, just that it's one model that we had to get all our background characters out of. Like Bon Voyage, he wasn't one of those because we didn't have that model built yet, but he was actually Frozone. We just pulled around to get that model. Then the rest are like the cops, all these people in the newsreel here, all these people are here. They're all the same model. And we just put controls in to pull the noses around and eyes and ears and head sizes and all kinds of weird stuff like chins and cheeks. And it was just finding, just going through and making sure they look different enough that they don't look like the same model.
I think it was successful.
We learned a lot. I don't know.
Never happy. All we're watching right now is a lot of mistakes and pain. And life is like flashing by watching this film.
Exactly.
Hard to talk about it. It's like someone put your life into whatever, an hour and a half. You just sit there going, pain. And fun stuff too.
I mean, every animator says after a picture that they feel like they didn't do anything. You worked your ass off and you did a lot of work, a lot of footage, even people that even did a lot of footage. It goes by so fast. You're lucky to do a few seconds. That's a lot of output.
Yeah.
If you do a couple seconds worth, a minute worth would be a lot.
How many fixes were on the show? There's like 5,000 animation fixes.
The average show has 2,000 to 3,000, so there's 5,000 animation fixes on just this show alone.
And there's 5,000. Brad just said, screw it.
All right.
We can't get to them.
What was it? What's the average animator doing a film? 200 feet? At Pixar, 100 feet?
Yeah.
So they're lucky to get a minute in? Wow.
Yeah, they're working.
So if you get a minute done, that's pretty good.
1 minute and 4 years.
Wow.
Thanks, man. It's really depressing.
Here's a scene, Tone, I remember when you did the Hoganson scene. You deny my claim. And like you wanted to jiggle the earlobes.
Oh, yeah,
the earlobes. And you're like, can't do it. There's no control in there to jiggle them. I need them.
Yeah.
And you had to bitch about it for a while.
Well, it was such an extreme close-up. It's like, they didn't look right. They had to move. It's a simple little swing. That's all they needed.
Yeah.
So we just kind of did it on the table.
Yeah. Who'd you pay off?
I think Carmen did.
Yeah.
You guys should talk about this because this is the first sequence in the film, right? In production. So this is the beginning of production for us.
Yeah, everyone was excited to start pushing stuff around and
going nuts and extreme with it because we put all these controls in that you could take it to all over the place. And Brad actually had to apologize, right? He's telling everybody to calm down. Wait, calm down. You're gonna get to do it again some other time.
If you freeze through some of those Angus scenes of Puff, the little guy, you can see some of those controls. The scale, you can see where the hands are scaled larger.
Yeah, for a frame or two,
and how his head, even when he's scaled and cut the side, and there's lots of stretch and squash going on.
Yeah.
I gotta give Mark Walsh credit for that idea of doing Sally Sob Story as kind of this la thing.
Yeah.
And Doug Dooley did a great animation of pencils here.
Beautiful.
I couldn't do it. I said, Dooley, can you do it? And he kicked it out of the park. It was great.
Just that little looseness we got to put into Bernie at the end. We got to do the pass on the bends on the arms.
Yeah, it makes a huge.
It makes such an amazing difference.
It's just it's a control that keeps them from looking too marionette-like.
Yeah, CG has you put a rotate on an arm or something like that. It always keeps its shape no matter where you move it. But if you put a bend control in, it just kind of bends it between the wrist and the elbow. You can really loosen it up just by creating a nice arc between the elbow through the hand, and it really makes a difference. I think through all this stuff, when you didn't have it in, it looked really stiff.
It's just trying to get to it all in time.
I've got a big headache.
Those two are the same.
That's right. That's Universal, man.
That's probably the most dramatic
example
of two different head shapes but the same character.
Until later in the movie.
Oh, that's right.
That also brings up the fact that myth that you can't go off model in computers. That it's there for you. It's a puppet that you really can. If you can stretch Frozone into Bon Voyage, you can really push the characters. I think on this film more than any, we had a lot of fixes, and we're really trying to keep it on model and clean as possible. I forget what we ended up with, something like 3,000.
5,000.
6,000.
6? Jeez.
That was just the last week.
Yeah, we had great people.
Or fixers cranking at all times.
You are cheating humans, though. I mean, we're doing stuff in here to cheat the daylights out of these things. But we're doing it based on, like, stuff we've learned in hand-drawn animation. Like, we're really trying to apply a lot of the same principles. Like shaping of eyelids, the way we would do it. You would see that in a drawing. Like, we would look at old, like, Pinocchio or...
Dalmatians was something.
Yeah, Dalmatians. We talked about that a lot. That scene with Roger.
We really didn't want to fall into the trap, which is, I think you can, a lot of computer films do, where we can put pockmarks on here and throw in all this detail on this flesh and get realistic. That was something we didn't want to do. We wanted to stay caricatured and not shy away from the fact that this is a puppet film with sort of 2D principle.
Yeah.
Sort of layered in.
Caricature sometimes is more realistic. You know, you really get the sense of the person. You kind of distill it down to something.
Exactly.
Rather than, like, you know, the dead zombie corpses. Realistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Al Hirschfeld. You look at a drawing of anybody, I don't know, Carol Channing. If you take a photo of Carol Channing and trace it exact, you know, right away your eye would go to the caricature because it's more her. It captures the essence, and
how your mind remembers it.
Yeah.
You know,
pick up all the little goodies and eliminate all the extra junk. So resisting that.
One of the things cool that was a great tool for us was the boards that Mark Andrews and his team did. Annie Jimenez, Ricardo Curtis, and Ted Mathot, and a bunch of guys that I'm probably forgetting their names.
Yeah.
Kevin O'Brien did. Peterson. I mean, we had amazing boards to work from. I mean, we're to the point where we were almost worried early on. I remember talking to you, Rob. I'm going, man, I don't know. They already got all the ideas there. What's going to be left? You know, we're just gonna in between it, and Brad's like, nah, man, trust me, there's gonna be plenty of work, and he couldn't have been more right.
Yeah.
Well, the previous sequence with Bob picking up the car and coming up from work, I'm stealing directly from the boards. I was straight Mark Andrews, and I was trying to match the boards. And you know what? I think they work better than the boards. I think it worked. I don't think I ever got the kind of starkness that hilarity that Andrews had. But, whatever. You try to match the boards.
Early on, Lou and I were looking at Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which are really unbelievably charming looking things, you know, and they were done in Japan. This motion studio in Japan. It's one of those things I don't think people know a lot about who actually sculpted these characters. The ones that I was amazed with are the ones that were drawn by Paul Coker, who's a Mad Magazine artist, and they were able to take those drawings and turn them into these puppets that really look like his style, and no matter which way you turn them. Same with Mad Monster Party. That was another one. Jack Davis designed those characters, and they were just like, so whoever those artists were, they were brilliant and really able to capture the simple shapes. We knew we weren't going to go that caricature because the tone of the story is not that broad. It's not really right, but we hopefully we've caught that sweet spot between pushing it too far and not too real.
Remember the biggest thing that helped us when we were articulating these things was you had the sculpt stem down at Disney by Ken Milton.
Mm-hmm.
And just having those on our desk while we were articulating was such a big help because it was like your drawings right there in 3D. You could turn it around, look at it, and it would give you an idea of how, like, as you build a control that moves Helen's mouth around, kind of knew what it should look like from all the different angles.
Yeah.
It was a big help.
That's great. That was fun because he's most of his career in animation. He was doing maquettes for 2D films for reference for the animators to draw from, which was kind of, not as direct as this, where he would pretty much did it. We got those first batch of sculpts and we were pretty clear this is what we want the film to look like. And hopefully that's good. Thanks.
Yeah. I didn't see
anything.
No.
I think he'll be happy.
This was one of those sequences that kind of epitomizes the whole film, where it's the family doing family stuff. It's
with superpowers.
close-up acting. It's superpowers. At the end, it just devolves in this big action sequence.
Yeah.
I remember thinking when we were in pre-production trying to figure out how to do the film, like from here on was just like, man, this is going to be really difficult to do.
Yeah, Sean has the nicest arcs.
Awesome shirt.
I think of any of us when he's when Bob is like on the phone later on, he's like arcing and it's really like pleasing, satisfying motion.
That last shot was Frozone saying goodnight, Helen.
Oh, that's a good story.
Oh, jeez.
Brad was on vacation. Go ahead.
He left the bozos in charge. The inmates in charge of the asylum, right?
Yeah. Sean Cross animated Bob saying goodnight, Helen. We all thought it was awesome. Yeah,
great
worked,
final.
It was pretty funny. And then Brad gave us a look like we were crazy. And it was really Frozone who was talking with Samuel L. Jackson. So yeah, we had to.
You had to go back in and reanimate.
That's what happened.
He wouldn't let it
town for 3 days.
He was like nailing me for that, and I think I was gone too. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Come on, man. Listen to that.
Listen, does that sound like Greg? Greg too. I'm like, don't hurt me.
Please don't hurt me.
You're scaring me.
This was like two guys sitting in a car, and we just realized we should like cast this out. You try to cast shots to animators, and either look at a group of shots with a bunch of characters in them, or they'll separate it by character. And this one, we really want to separate out by character because it's so distinctive. Like there's just some great lines of dialogue there. So we ended up casting out to Mike Venerini,
Mike Wu, who are two friends who, kind of sat in the car. I mean, that's what I remember Mike saying that as soon as he was cast. It's like, man, this is awesome. What animated film am I going to be able to animate? Two guys just sitting in a car having a conversation.
Yeah.
You know? It's just one of those things as an animator, you never be given a chance to, act out that kind of scene as really
Venturini did Frozone, and Mike Wu was Bob.
But I remember that goes to like what I remember Brad saying he would write scenes just because he as an animator would want to animate that. I want to animate two guys in the car talking.
And then
I want to animate a husband and wife yelling at each other.
It was the first time though, like where I remember being in dailies, and that's where we all get together and look at our shots together on the big screen. And Brad, there'd be a great shot. Brad would still say something. Well, it's good, but it's something I've seen before. I've seen that gesture before. I've written something that I'm trying to make scenes for you guys that are new. Bring something to the table that's you or that's new and fresh. Let's push the acting.
That's another thing they tried to do was hand out as much of the movie as they could to each animator, so that you can work within like the continuity of the scene. You don't have to do one big scene here and worry about hooking it up to the scene before and after that you didn't touch at all. And so if you can get like 10 scenes in a row, like my Frozone stuff in the fire, it's a lot easier to hook that stuff up and really simulate like a real performance in it. This Frozone stuff was, I think, my favorite stuff that I did in the film. Just pushing hand poses. And
I remember how excited you were about, you can see how the ice is going to look when it's flying out of his fingers. Because you had to just imagine that when you were animating the
Yeah. It's difficult. I mean, there's so much stuff on top of these characters with the fire and all the haze and everything that it's difficult to imagine all that. There's some stuff that I think I spent a lot of time on that you can't even see at all.
Yeah. Isn't that the way it always goes?
The masks are cool, and the design that he said they're kind of a nod to later on in the film when he has.
They actually had wearing their superhero masks.
Yeah.
Creation by Alan Barillera. I love his hands. I love Frozone's hands.
That scene of him in the fire, throwing the stuff.
Yeah.
Travis did. There's some amazing hand poses there.
Yeah.
It's
in a little flick.
Yeah.
He gives it.
Yeah. It's just very comic book Jack Kirby.
There definitely was a lot of attention to facial detail. I mean, that comes from Brad and Tony more than anything. Hunter too. Yeah, he really pays attention to the facial stuff a lot.
I love this little Shatner movie he does before he gets in the car. Al does. He does this little like pull up, trying to stop his weight. Total Shatner. Amazing. Thank God. Get a little Shatner in this movie.
You're always trying to get a little Shatner in every movie.
You gotta have a little Shatner.
It's one of Ron Zorman's first scenes. Yeah. This one here, the cake eating stuff.
The actual cake eating disturbs me to watch because I saw that footage. Dave Mullins did the animation, and he actually sat down with a giant piece of cake. Actually, he bought a whole cake.
His wife made the cake.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, his wife made the cake for him.
And he just showed me all this footage of him scarfing back a giant piece of cake and delivering the line. And I mean, he ate the whole cake in about 20 minutes. It's disgusting.
Should put that footage on the DVD.
Yeah.
This is kind of interesting because this section is animated by like 4 different people. This argument, but it really feels unified.
Yeah, it really.
Brad was really on top of this one.
It really does flow from one animator to the other. Like, it was really nice.
Yeah.
Because this is a case where we casted it in chunks of like 5 or 6 shots in a row to 4 different people, and each of them worked on Bob and Helen. And then as it flowed through the sequence, it just had this build to it. And I think it was just how we cast it that it actually, and it just flowed nicely from one to the other.
Yeah.
And keep having Brad stay on top of it.
Kind of interesting too, as we're going along. If there wasn't what we call that polish patch, where you guys would put in little subtle squashes, little squash and stretch in the eyes, and little tiny things in the lids.
Mm-hmm.
When we saw it in digital dailies, suddenly Mom, for example, would turn to porcelain. She looked fine on our computer screens, but the minute it was up there, if that little pad,
all the lighting,
it really stiffened things up. It's amazing how you had to do it. You couldn't. There was no shortcuts.
Right.
The stuff.
And Mom was one that was just really, she was really easy to take off model really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. She was the most difficult, like trying to keep track of it, make sure that people had her on model.
The bigger the head and the thinner the neck, like Mom and Vi, the more it was difficult to kind of that shoulder neck relationship to feel real and not too puppety.
Right. Like even if you move your head, it has to be reflected in the body.
Yeah, tied into the chest.
Yeah. I think it's something we all wanted to see.
Yeah.
We really wanted to see a movie like this get made, and then Brad drops down from the sky, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Remember
we early on when you were on the picture, before you even came on the picture, we were just talking about what we wanted to see and that we hadn't seen and knew it wouldn't be easy.
Yeah, you want to prove something too as a department, I think. Brad definitely instills that feeling in you that you're the underdog in this situation. You really want to prove that we can do the best balance between 2D and 3D. There's no difference. Good animation is good animation, and this is the most difficult task, doing good caricatured human animation. It was something we haven't really nailed here, so we're all out to kind of prove something.
Mm-hmm.
This was a perfect film to do.
Hallelujah.
And it was just a big bite. I mean,
yeah,
it was just a lot to do. The amount of stuff in terms of just this type of acting and the number of characters and acting, it was lots of action.
Even locations.
Locations, yeah.
If it was a regular, live action film, you instead of being, shot on 3 locations, shot on about 80 locations. So it's a lot.
And it was long. I mean, it was 10 minutes longer than a typical film? That's a lot of extra work.
The thing that's cool too about this film in general is that we got chunks of shots. Usually you get like 2 or 3 shots at a time. And on this film, we got 10 shots at a time, 15 shots. I think Angus got like 200 shots at a time.
Yeah, you probably animated like a minute and a half straight in the Bob.
Yeah, it's actually technically, it's a minute.
And it's really cool because, we had basically 5 guys do the scene, and we all just hooked up with one another, and it made it so easy. It could have been 20 animators animating the scene, trying to push it through.
In the past, it would have been like we'd usually get 1 or 2 shots, and it would just be.
And it just wouldn't feel as. I just don't think it would feel as continuous as a single idea.
From an artistic standpoint, too, you just feel like you can say, "I animated this." Piece, you sort of have ownership of that.
It was a big shift early on. Like when we had to build these things so that we could do all the stuff that he wanted with them to get the looseness and all that in there. We had to, first build it, and that was with a small group of guys arguing over it over and over again, and then finally getting that group to like kind of relearn how we do things. And then we had to take on a group of like 50 people and teach them again how to relearn their stuff. There was quite a learning curve at the beginning where we taught them all the controls and all the new tools, and then kind of let them go. And I think a lot of people did an admirable job, and a lot of them it was just a lot to take in early on. Yeah. And that was when they got tired. There's a point where early on after the first few shots where people were just like, oh my God, this is huge.
But the most rewarding, this is why you're here. I think Brad always reminded you why you wanted to be an animator to begin with. It kind of takes you right back to, when you're a kid seeing an old Disney movie and, Jungle Book or something like that. There's a lot of work that was put into that to get it to that level. And you eventually find out for yourself that it's a tremendous amount of work. So you really have to, everybody just dug their heels in and helped each other out. And he kind of really bred that, go talk to that person, that young animator, and, that young animator should talk to that senior, like that. We're all in this together, and that we can only do it, as one big group.
Yeah. That was his story at the beginning. It was like, none of us is the best animator in this room, but all together we can be the best animator. We can build that bird.
It's like just like
yeah. It's just like Such a great.
And how many speeches? I mean, Daly's was always.
Well, it's either a speech or a rant.
A rant. Usually
a lot of rants,
which are kind of like speeches.
Kind of.
The rant, we don't polish it off with a
go team.
Yeah, he could have took the road of just telling us exactly what he wanted. Here it is. Just do this, and you're fine. But instead, he really wanted to understand where he was coming from, where at this moment this character was, why he wrote it. He made it so personal that you couldn't help but get emotionally involved when you're animating these shots. I mean, to the point where he'd be talking about the shot, and then all of a sudden you're like, look, all right, stop, turn up the lights, and he'd run to the front of the room and go on for 20 minutes, which we never had this 20 minutes. He had to move on to another review, and he'd go into this, real big story about why it's important that we see Bob get cut, that, that the audience believe that he can get hurt, that this isn't a cartoon where he runs off a cliff and falls and turns into a pancake and walks off, that, for the story, this is a story point, that it has to be believable, and that you have to really worry about these characters. That's a difficult thing in animation. The level of skill that has to be put into the animation and the physics is really difficult. It's saying, like, it has to be, that balance, I guess, is really difficult for us.
I remember him talking about that years ago. He always just bring up the word peril. It requires some work to do that. If you have first scene of the film, you see your main character jumping off roofs and sliding down. I'm not going to name the film, but you see someone doing these superhuman things, dodging things, and you're not going to really be that worried for him or her if later in the film when there's supposedly this danger.
Gotta feel like they can get hurt.
It opens up the door for telling real stories about all sorts of different topics, and
that's tricky with a superhero movie, because one of the problems with Superman is seeing this guy's invincible. What's there to worry about?
Yeah.
Got to kind of introduce kryptonite or something. I think you wanted these characters they could die. They're superhuman, but they also they can be killed.
Even the prologue, I remember Brad saying, this is a sucker punch to the audience. They think this is going to be a superhero movie, and we can be hammy and more posy and anything to contrast the next sequence, which was Bob in the office 30 years later, just to really drive that home.
In 2D, you know what you're creating because it's in front of you as you create it. You know what it's going to look like. And you can do cell setups, or your drawing is done, and you know it's not going to change much. I mean, you'll have a cleanup artist go over it, but the idea is that it's supposed to stay pretty much the way you do it. And in CG, there's this incredible growth and change from this crude blocking where the models were moving around. The characters are just sort of primitive shapes of what they're going to be later, with no color and shading, and then it sometimes is almost unrecognizable when you finally see the shots. Like, we were looking, we're stunned at what we're seeing when we see it, and we animated it.
The stuff that frustrated me the most about the animation was trying to take out what I had learned in 2D, kind of. Do you know the kind of like bouncy, fluffy kind of stuff, like swoopy kind of cartoony arcs?
Yeah.
And trying to take that out, because I'd get reprimanded a lot about putting stuff like that in there. And it's just like, no fluff, no fluff.
But Brad's style also is more like, there's a little bit more of a live action.
Yeah, but in 2D, even in Iron Giant, like, there's stuff you could get away with in 2D that in 3D, because of how real it looks, like it'll look weird.
Yeah, an animator, we're just in general trying to communicate to the audience different beats that the character is having. And if we can do that, then we've done our job, I guess.
There's the quality of like 2D animation that can be really bouncy and jumpy kind of stuff, where this is totally on the other side of that like spectrum, where it's pretty serious acting that Brad really is pushing for that kind of subtlety, which with computers is so much easier to do than in my experience in 2D. Like, I could never do the stuff that we could do on a computer.
Right. Well, supposedly the Rankin Bass thing was actually a little bit of a sell, because at first when Tony Fucilli had mentioned, well, we should capture the Rankin Bass thing, Brad was a little skeptical, because he said, no, I don't want this to be clunky. And Tony said, no, I don't mean clunky. I mean, grab the charm from Rankin Bass and then put that into what's going to be a lot more sophisticated. And then Brad was like, okay, you think you can do that? Let's see.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely one of the reasons why this succeeds as one of Pixar's first film with humans, is that charm. And there's so many CG films that get caught up in the details of humans, and we all know what we look like as humans, so everybody's like, wait, we need this detail and this detail, tear ducts, freckles, acne or whatever, but it ends up looking a little grotesque because it's so detailed. And, you're still animating, like it's still cartoony animation with that level of realism to the models. It ends up not really meshing. And I think that's one area where this definitely succeeds.
Yeah, Tony, I think he's not into popping and morphing reality. He's into
the caricature.
Distilling it, which is a whole different approach. And it's really about sort of simplifying so that you get the essence of what's appealing about something and not jamming in all these kind of extra details that aren't necessarily going to add to it.
I don't know if I have any favorite, but I know I'm most proud of some of the Kiss animation with Bob and Helen, and only for the, just how it was difficult. And, Brad was like, yeah, it works. And that's just satisfying just to know that it worked versus, yeah.
Because it was a hot kiss.
Yeah, no, that was real. I was kissing myself in the mirror, and
yeah, we were getting worried about him.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was almost like you guys were all in school again or something.
People were coming from all sorts of backgrounds too. I mean, you had guys from Spain and Paris and all over the place from various levels of
kids fresh out of school to guys who've run their own studios.
Yeah,
it just was amazing what people brought to it.
Brad was, a great coach in sports analogy, but he was a great coach in knowing what we were capable of and when to call on that person. Cameron Miyazaki being such a, right out of school, young pup, and then he gives him, it was Brad's call to give him that shot, that whole sequence in the cave where Violet is saying bye to mom, which is totally a tearjerker, but that animation is awesome. And
that's one thing he's always been open-minded about that. He doesn't discriminate against a kid who's never done who's on his first film. The guy does, if he's giving him what he wants, he's going to get better scenes.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is.
Well, he knows that you want to, everybody can push each other in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And that I remember when he gave that sequence to Cameron, he asked afterwards, was he scared? Yeah, he was scared. Oh, great.
Good. He's hungry.
You're scared. You're hungry, you're ready to go, and you're out to prove something. And he tried to always keep that, I think, that kind of feeling in us, get us riled up, come on, man. Your work's looking a little, that's all you got. A week.
Come on, man.
The first time we saw Incredibles as an animation department, and we just saw the reels to the storyboards, I think we were all quite stunned. And I think we all have to agree that this is an animator's movie. Every shot in this film was like animation heaven. But even in other films that we worked on, there was always the sweet shots that you're like, man, I'd love to do this. But every shot in this film is so satisfying animation-wise to work on.
We lost a few people, I have to say. I don't know if this will end up, but it's just we realized early on that it was a lot of work. And some people just went, I don't know if I could do this. But a lot of people stood up and said, yep, I want to do this. We're there for you. We got work out of people that, frankly, I didn't think you'd never seen it in them before this movie. It was just what the movie was and who Brad was, and everybody just stepped up, and some of the work was just amazing.
There's a lot of physical stuff we're watching now. I remember when we first started, we had all those tough acting moments. We're like, okay, so this is the tough stuff. Now, thank God we have some action. We'll blow right through it. Yeah. There's Brad frame by framing every pose. Yeah. All of a sudden, the physical stuff is just as hard, if not harder. That was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, the other thing, I remember how we'd look at the small screen on our Menvy, our little playback thing, and the scene would look fine, and then we'd show it on the big screen, and everything would look like little toys.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did he say 20% slower?
Oh my God! This whole sequence is probably 20% slower than what we originally animated it at.
Because they started looking like little figurines that are about 12 inches tall.
Yeah.
Especially the Omnibot.
Get too zippy.
Yeah.
Many times you see this stuff. I think I've seen the sequence 20 plus times, and
it's like seeing it for the first
time. In various stages of completion, you see this final lighting, final rendering, sound effects, and music, and it's completely new.
There's a lot of firsts. Just that whole Monday Night Football sketch tool that Brad would draw over whatever frame he decided. Like in dailies, he'd be viewing our work, and he'd step through and stop on a frame and then draw over top of it. And it was a really, we're all very visual, and it was such a clear explanation of what he wanted when, to change a pose. And he'd always grab other people and come on, try to get Tony to get up there and draw, which was always funny. So reluctant to do it.
It was that Cintiq. I couldn't get used to that thing.
Yeah,
and the glass was too thick. You placed the thing on the glass, and it was like an inch between the image and
the pencil. Yeah,
that's my excuse.
All right.
I'm not buying it.
This movie was so huge, there was no room for error. We couldn't have a sequence go on too long or make, huge sweeping changes afterwards. It was kind of like your one shot. So the pressure on all of us, here's your shot, try to knock it out of the park and match it up with the amazing shot next to it. It was a difficult thing.
Knocking it out of the park, talking about this stuff.
Wendell.
Never
knew he could be so sexy.
He got in touch with his inner girl.
But again, this is a perfect example of splitting up a scene, giving it one to one.
This is Mike Wu again.
On Bob,
and Wendell Lee. Raj.
Sexy scene.
The first time he showed this in dailies, I remember everybody was just kind of silent, like, whoa,
damn.
Yeah. You had me.
It was like a little,
got
a little sweaty in there.
It's adult on one level, and it's very fun. Like, it's a very fun film on another level, and it's really rich, and you don't get an opportunity to do that too much. You're dealing with stuff like marital, strife in the house, and the way kids feel about their parents, and
butt pinching shots.
That's which is huge,
really huge.
Yeah, I've been waiting for that for a long time.
So yeah, there are two separate models for Bob here when he gets skinnier. So we just swapped out the fat Bob, and we have the fit Bob.
Yeah, the fit Bob was based on fat Bob, kind of trimmed him down. Then Bill Scheffler went in and kind of reworked some of the controls to make it look clean.
I remember early on coming out of dailies, and our manager, Mad Dog, I remember him just saying, man, this is like grad school for animators. We're already animators. We're professional animators, but going into dailies on this film is just like, you're scared again, and it's like grad school.
I think the stakes were high. I didn't go to school for animation, so I don't know animation principles and things like that a lot of people here do.
She's a natural.
Going to Cal Arts and that kind of thing. So really, when I got here, I had to learn how to animate looking at other people's stuff. This is the first director I really had where he's drawing on your work. He is what I imagined how the traditional animators learn to work, and that was daunting.
It's funny what each animator has like their own thing that drives them nuts that you can't let go of. Like you see it every time, and you just can't stand to watch it. Then you show it to somebody else, and they're like, doesn't bother me.
Right.
That's Frozone again, and I guess the role as he's security guard.
Mm-hmm.
AJ, the security guard. Remember how big those glasses were at the beginning, the sunglasses?
Oh my God.
They were like, when you go to SeaWorld and the kids have the giant sunglasses, it's just one of those model problems. And I think it was finally Corey Ray was like,
please fix those glasses.
Yeah, please. It's funny. People are laughing at him. It's not supposed to be funny.
He looks hot. It's a good shirt. Looks good on.
Yeah.
Looks good on.
Tight fitting.
We really tried to pay attention with E on her face to create this kind of graphic shape with her eyes, like a straight line across the top of the eye when she's got that sort of lidded expression. She's really a fun character, too, because she's got such a range. Like, she's cartoony one moment, and then she's very just quiet and subtle in other moments and very sort of droll. This was a really difficult shot for the simulation team, getting her hand to actually go through that hole in the cloth, so kudos to them for pulling that off.
This is where simulation and animation had to work together at the same time rather than passing, after the animation's done, then hand it off to simulation. Actually had to work together because it was so difficult to deal with that sim shirt. Make sure we weren't,
he had to take, just simulate for them to simulate clothes on the character was hard enough. Yeah. And then she has to grab it from him, pull on it, stick her hand through it, and then toss it in the garbage can. It's just like, that was shocking.
Like in 2D, that would be an easy scene. You don't even have to see the hand till the very end. So
right.
All that little stuff's kind of simple, and yet it's a miracle.
In CG, it's a total miracle that they make that work.
It's little moments like that where this idea that if you can capture one thing that is definitely human and real and true. And if you can throw that into a shot, an audience will connect with it and go, oh, yeah, I know what that's like, and subconsciously be really into it.
Oh, how many times do we have to change all these guys' names and reanimate because of legal
reasons? Yeah,
because every superhero name has been taken somewhere. Brad is always. I think that almost killed Walker.
Oh yeah,
just having to deal with all that.
Yeah. That's gotta hurt.
You make up a superhero name, chances are someone has already made it up back in the 20s or something like that.
Well, that's why I can't believe The Incredibles is such a great name. How has no one ever used that before?
Right.
Shoot will be finished before your next assignment.
Oh, Rob Russ.
Oh, Rob Russ.
Yeah, nice work.
Oh,
thanks. I love this shot. Nice flicker.
Thanks.
I only need a patch job.
And I think the thing was that when you actually take the suits off the characters, they're much larger than this. But they're like, what are we going to do? It'll be twice the size of Eve. It's just like, well, just shrink it down 50%. And it'll look like it really stretches in space. Look how big his shirt is. It's like, that really is the size of his shirt. And she can barely.
Some Doug Dooley here.
Drag it off the ground there. Oh. The hair.
Craig T is perfect. Craig T. Nelson is just perfect for Bob. It's frightening.
That was,
So we did tests with
George
Clooney, Harrison Ford early on. Just some test dialogue pieces we did. And they were cool, but Craig is Bob.
It was great about Brad picking voices that actually fit the characters rather than just, here's a celebrity who has a very weak voice and doesn't have anything for an animator to really sink his teeth into.
Right.
I remember back in '92, and it was just a germ of an idea. He said, "The dad's kind of like a Craig T type, So I mean, even back then, it was.
And you
that was his first.
You sketched him with him in mind, right?
Yeah. Original drawings, and same with Lou, and Lou came up with this.
So you think big time celebrity voices is not the way to go?
Well, a lot of big time celebrities are great actors, but not necessarily voice talent. You strip the visual performance away, and sometimes you just have this boring voice. A lot of times they're they don't have to necessarily have such an amazing voice because they're film actors. There's some subtlety going on in facial stuff, physical stuff. It's not like the stage where they need to have
like Mirage's character, like getting Elizabeth Pena to do it. She's fantastic as Mirage. Like that's Mirage.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's really great.
Yeah, as an animator, you have to sit there and listen to the soundtrack over and over and over again for a day before you even start really sinking your teeth into the shot. So if the voice is weak and you don't have anything to draw from, it's just kind of this bland reading. It's a real struggle to kind of put the performance in that is required for the scene. If the voice isn't there.
It's funny when you look at a lot of the facial animation here and just the animation in general. One thing that Tony and Brad really wanted us to look at and really study really, really carefully is the Disney animation from back in the day, particularly Jungle Book and 101 Dalmatians. Most of what we were trying for was a lot of that style of animation.
It was a nice surprise in that one scene of Bob and
so rude.
The door opens when he first sees his room. It's one of those things that a good animator could bring to a scene that didn't really have. Maybe Brad wasn't even thinking, but he just kind of. I think Rodrigo had him kind of going, "Ooh, doing this. Yeah, that's cool." Kind of making an ooh face, not any sounds, and just kind of shaking his head. It always gets a laugh.
Totally plussed it. It wasn't in the boards. Yeah.
I think it's interesting how all of us here both like working on acting and also physical stuff. Yeah. I think I could think of definitely there's a bunch of physical stuff that everyone has done and acting. It's a good.
That was, I think, one of the more fun things about this film is you got within every shot you pretty much had a little bit of both.
That was some of the best vacuum cleaner animation I've ever seen.
Karen Carter shot herself on video
and just animated the hell out of it. It looks just like my mom vacuuming the house. Not me, because I never vacuumed. I never vacuumed because only moms vacuum.
Definitely takes a while to get used to each character. That's the frustrating thing about this. You work so hard in establishing all these rules for every character, and what they would do and what they wouldn't do, and how broad mouth shape would be, or an expression. Who they really are as people. And once you kind of get all that down, the movie's over. And it's really frustrating.
Everybody gets their head around it.
Finally, really, know who Bob is, inside and out, and now you're done.
Like we did with Helen. kind of like taking the way that Holly Hunter speaks and kind of incorporating that into like the mouth shapes and
yeah.
A lot of it goes down to the individual animators to do the work, to look at the dialogue tapes of Holly talking and actually really examining how she talks and then putting it into the scene. I mean, it just came down to this those specific animators that did the work to do it. It's just, it pluses it like crazy.
Is one thing that it's interesting to mention is that for most of these films, the core animation crew has been the same. So it's kind of this weird dysfunctional family where everyone knows each other so well that there's a lot of camaraderie and a lot of
esprit de corps.
A lot of everything you might expect in like a Brady Bunch type scenario.
It's more like army barracks to me.
Yeah. And here's John Carr's.
John Carr's is Syndrome.
The role he was born to play.
Yeah. Matching hair, matching physique.
Brad was really into us getting into the characters, and so John was required to wear this outfit.
This is always a little strange because this guy, the animator, actually looks like Syndrome, who did this stuff. John Carr's.
Oh,
so freakish. A little disturbing to see him animating himself.
I know, always a little bit like that. You're watching people's, when you know the people that are working on it, you can kind of see their mannerisms and way of talking kind of creep through. So I love that flash.
Well, that scene, if you go back, that scene with Helen where she's looking at the thread in the vacuuming sequence where she looks at the costume, sees the thread that he's done, and she turns and goes, Edna. That scene looks so much like Karen Kaiser. Yeah. It was just like, it was really well animated, really well analyzed, but it was just looking way too much like Karen, and we had to go in and like kind of make it look more like Helen a little bit. But the heart's still there, It's just, you had to make sure it stayed on model. It was so funny that it looked like Karen.
Whereas that one scene that John did, you acted it out for him. And it looks like you doing one of your psycho. It's like, baby's sleeping. And he laughs.
Yeah.
Well, even that walk is very much like the way that kind of cocky walk.
Oh, yeah.
Cocky walk? What are you talking about?
And that was a walk that he got when we videotaped you on the treadmill. He picked it up from that.
I was trying to figure out, he did that arm flick on the way out to the... I keep trying to figure out what the hell that is. And then one day I was walking through the atrium and I actually caught myself doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that it was because my t-shirt was getting caught in my armpit. So I had to like lift my arm to get it out. Kind of thing. Like, oh, that's what Syndrome's doing, is costume bunched up in his armpit. Okay. That waterfall is so beautiful.
That's another thing. I remember we came here and I asked you, do we animate our own hair? And you're like, no, it's simulated. I thought, wait a minute, you can't. You gotta draw it. You gotta animate the hair and the clothes and stuff. And I think if we had to do that, we'd be all hospitalized by now.
Mm-hmm.
If we had to do the capes and the hair. And
still be on the first scene. But you do want that control. You want it to have that graphic element, where you really get exactly what you want.
But it looks pretty damn.
But that was the case too, where it's like, because of the drawing tool in the screening room, when they would show simulation, Brad would say, can you push the simulation so that it gets more like this shape so it reads clearer? And he would draw it what he wanted it to look like. And, God bless the sim guys. They would actually go and push that thing around somehow, and it would look, there's certain points where it just feels like it's drawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. The simulation just basically works on top of the animation we do. So it's like you're animating the body of the character, and then the clothes hang off the body, and the hair hangs off the body, and just reacts to what the body's doing. So we're just basically, all we're worrying about is the form of the character. So if that silhouette reads, we run the simulation to make sure that it works, the pose still works with the simulation on top of it. And that was where a lot of the iteration came in, where it was like, sometimes, if I didn't pull the arm out of the body enough, the simulation would fill in the gaps and be like, damn, I don't have as nice a silhouette as I would want. So we would go in and like repose the character, rerun the simulation. There was a lot of pushback from animation and Brad, I think, because there was a lot of times where simulation would just, and I think in any other studio, they'd cry bloody murder. But I think, and our guys did. I think Mark Ken, who headed up the simulation, he actually he made a little chart with an arrow on it saying, this is really easy. This is insanely difficult to do. And for shots, he would stand up before. Remember that? He'd stand up when we were really looking at the shot, like, I want my character to push the hair out from behind her ear, kind of thing. And he'd get up with his little chart with his arrow thing on it, and he'd be like, this is the state of this shot. Instead, it's very difficult.
There's always the smallest things that were the hardest.
Touching yourself.
Any physical contact with anybody was a nightmare. but you could, have them thrown out of airplanes. Like, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, whatever.
We'll get
But
that out in a day.
We had to so there was that kind of negotiation that took place in dailies where Mark would be like, I'm just saying, it's really difficult. If you want it for the scene, we can do it, but it's going to take more time and might have to take it away from somewhere else. So Brad would have to kind of weigh whether it was important enough to do it. And like in Cameron's scenes where, Helen pushes the hair up behind Violet's ears outside the cave, that is such a sensitive moment. You needed to have that.
Yeah. It's the first time where Violet starts to open up, and then eventually you'll see the next. Then she herself pulls her hair back, and then she has it back. She's starting to become. Yeah, she's starting to gain a lot of self-confidence.
Brad's voice, it's so funny because Brad would be in dailies, and Brad would be making comments, and he'd be making comments in Edna's voice.
Right.
Darling, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, they try to get different voice actors for E, and they just...
Yeah, Lily Tomlin was...
Yeah. They wouldn't do it. Yeah. It's like...
Well, Lily came in, she's like, what do you need me for? You've got it. And he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Brad was rather reluctant to actually accept that, but...
Yeah.
The nice thing about having the writer and the voice of E in dailies with you is that, like, Brad would give you the analogy for a particular beat. Like when Frankel does this scene coming up where she's like, "Well, darling, what do you think?" And the way Helen reacts and the way he would just explain that kind of demeanor that E would have where she's like, "This is not the required response." And then he'd start saying all these comments like in this shot, and her response to Helen's response is, she's like, "What the? You're not responding the way this presentation is supposed to have."
Right. This isn't how it was scripted, darling.
But also the idea that E really is far ahead of her, far ahead of Helen's thinking process. Like she's kind of speaking.
Yeah. She's like the dungeon master.
Yeah, mock innocence about it.
Don't try and bait me.
Here's a case, too, on all this stuff with the jungle. So we had simulation that would do hair and cloth, but we didn't have simulation to do plant keep alive or movement. So we had a guy who had to go through and hand animate all the trees kind of moving around and swinging. So in some ways, we can do cloth, but we can't do plants blowing in the breeze.
Well, there's just a point. You can, but there's this point in production where everything is all hitting the fan at the same time. And it's just a question of, who at that moment, who can grab it and get it done. And really, a lot of the stuff that's in there is just kind of thrown in. Okay, I'll do it before I go home tonight. These little, everyone just kind of picking up something and trying to get it in the film, or else it's cut. It really comes down to that. If you have that extra day to come in or evening, you animate a little plant keep alive, and it makes it feel that much more real. So on this film, more than any, everyone from every department was okay. I'll try to do that in my spare time. I'll try to find a way to give your earlobe, swing you don't want.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. It makes it feel believable, and you really early on we really noticed when you strung 20 shots together and they're all with that high level of polish, and you really believed that Bob was this person, and his face was really pliable, and then you come across a shot where that stopped. It really jumped out at you. So it was a lot of work that we had to maintain throughout the whole production.
Holly is amazing.
Yeah.
Holly Hunter was just incredible for Helen. I mean, we use so much of her in this film. You can see it in her face, the way she talks outside of her mouth a little bit like this.
Bob was the hardest one. We went through a number of ideas for Bob, and I think they really got the best voice that they could.
Craig T is
Craig
awesome.
T is
amazing.
Yeah,
he turned out so well.
Yep,
I love animating to his voice.
And he actually came to Pixar and he was actually pretty amazed by, he was really friendly, and it was nice to actually meet him. It's a lot easier when the animators can meet the voice talent and kind of see them in 3 dimensions rather than just on movies.
Well, and he fits this role so well too, because we've seen him in Poltergeist playing this sort of dad, this similar dad character.
How come the Spaniards are so good with physics? Is it something in the water down there?
I don't know. Happens in Spain that they understand physics to a ridiculous level. Rodrigo and Carlos.
Yeah. There's nothing to say about this. Just watch it. It's just unbelievable how heavy this thing looks.
Maybe we can all go to Spain after this and learn physics.
I think it might be
a big training
ground.
ground.
Send the whole department over to Spain.
Something happens over there. I don't know what it is.
I love that little the way it skitters to the side there. It's just such a great touch.
This scene coming up is actually really, really interesting how it was done. When Bob is exiting from here and he's getting gooballed. The whole thing was shot. It was basically animated on just straight ahead, right on the platform there. Basically, they went around, set up a bunch of different cameras, and just cut it all together with the same animation. Then went in and finished the animation for each one of those shots per camera. It just turned out so awesome.
I love this stuff here. This is Bolem's Boshiba's first sequence in computers, and it's quite amazing because he hand drew the whole thing out first, keyed it out, broke it down, and actually showed it to Brad. Brad approved the drawings just the same he would in traditional animation, and then he went and kind of used that as a blueprint. And the scene, they're pretty identical, and that's amazing. A lot of people work that way at a variety of levels, but it kind of, for us, there is no difference between the two mediums. If you looked at that sequence in hand drawn, you look at it in computers, both are pretty awesome. You're just arguing between mediums of is watercolor better than oil painting? I don't know. Both are paintings and they're excellent. The majority of the animators at least came from 2D in school, or if not, were professionals for a while. So it's something where I think you're always trying to push it as far as the models, driving the technical people crazy, asking for these controls that kind of don't really make sense.
The insanity of this next sequence with the goo balls, Bob being nailed by the goo balls.
This was done in one shot first, and all these camera moves were added after Dylan had blocked out this entire run of Bob getting hit by all these goo balls. And then Steve and Brad went into editorial and kind of picked the angles they want. And Dylan went back at it and polished it, but there's back and forth with editorial that makes it so awesome.
It's crazy how... If you had to do that as separate shots, you'd go insane. And Dylan really just took this one. I remember he was like, we were going to give it to him. He came in and we showed it to him. He's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. At least I'm scared. But it's good.
Yeah, I'm scared. But it's good.
It's good. It's good. I'm scared, man.
Right. I can do it.
Well, every time I saw Brad and Steve working on editorial, I was like, okay, wow, that's awesome. It's done. And then you'd see Brad walk out like, great, Steve, see you in an hour. We'll take another pass at it. It's not done.
Yeah.
Have the goo balls eventually win out over Bob, so it goes 2 frames, 1 frame, 1 frame, 1 frame. Until you feel like they really got the best of them.
She doesn't have Kleenex, and she has to use toilet paper because Brad explained that she would not have Kleenex at her house. E would have to, improvise because there's no crying at E's house.
Yeah.
E just sums up the best in Brad, I think. That fight win is just, that kind of encapsulates a lot of his kind of cheerleader / coach mentality of like SWAT team approach to getting everything done.
It's like a miniature Brad Bird yelling at Helen. This is pretty much him.
That was dailies every day. Smacking us around with a newspaper, yelling at us.
Voicing Helen,
ranting.
Voicing Sir E.
Come on.
This is a case where simulation actually, we forgot that, we're usually animating Vi without her hair. And once we put the hair on, the simulation was there. That first chunk of that shot, Adam Burke animated the whole face beautifully, and it's all missing because of the hair.
We had to decide where did we want to have the part, and we couldn't have it move throughout the sequence.
Yeah, and we could switch it shot to shot, but cheat it here and there. But
we really wanted to go through and say, part's down on the other side.
Yeah,
on the left side.
What's over here? Hopefully nobody caught it.
I love this little jog that Solomon does very well.
Oh, yeah, again, another hard sequence. Characters grabbing the same costume from hand to hand. Crazy.
But that takes about a month, right? I think that took Solomon about a month to do working.
Yeah.
Steadily hard with working dinners.
Fast for that scene.
I really like this whole little sequence here because they're all kind of using their powers all at the same time, but in this domestic situation to kind of get their way. each of the characters.
Shot in the movie. We have to talk about this. Brad hates the shot. not animation. So much
the
as not existing. Never seeing a shot with snow.
It's a classic example of Brad coming from a 2D world where it's like, what's the big idea? Get it,
just draw it.
Get us a design and draw it.
Yeah. Add another character.
We couldn't build a hangar. We couldn't do.
He didn't build his office.
Couldn't build.
We had him actually built. We had a geometry, but we couldn't articulate him.
Yeah, and every department had to do something to him, so it was just too much work. He needs shading glove and hair and clothes. So there's no Snug in the movie, but.
So Snug was a character that originally existed. He actually flew the plane originally,
and he whittled down to just a paragraph.
And he died.
One version he
originally he died in the explosion, and the kids were like, "What happened to Snug?" And you saw his hat, and that was it. And Brad, that was the first sequence I saw. And Brad's like, "Hey, this is to show him we're not messing around. People die in this film."
It actually works better having Helen fly the plane anyway.
Yeah. Well, they always have a woman fly the plane, but it's nice that she gets to kick some butt too later on.
The first time we saw the film was only the first 2 acts, and finished the third act, and people came out of the screening frothing, just crazy, and that energy continued throughout the entire film. Amazing.
Ruin the ride. I mean, Mr. Incredible.
It's a perfect example of young guys fresh out of school coming in, not even really supposed to be animating.
They were interns. They were interns on our movie. They were we brought them in. They learned the computer, and then
we just make fun of them most of the time.
Most of the time,
and to bring golf clubs to the dailies because
go steal some beer from the beer bash and bring it back to the animation area.
They were very good at it.
That kind of thing. But then,
their tests were so advanced. I mean, the stuff that they did in there, it's like, wow, they're ready.
Yeah.
And then this stuff was blocked by Sweetland. Rough, but very rough blocking. And they took it and basically animated.
All the syndrome stuff is our intern. Amazing stuff.
Oh, well.
There's Bolem and Bob there. It's awesome physics. Again, hand drawn first. To get exactly what he wants. I think the more the reason I think so many people draw before they get to the computers, there's a lot less searching done on the computer, and you kind of know exactly what you want before you go in there. Because once you get in the computer, there's endless controls and endless reasons to.
Something I noticed too, like when you're animating the computer, you got to talk to yourself. Okay, I got to go in here and open this. I mean, me, I can open that first. But when you're drawing something, you just internal dialogue is for me. Lots of grunts. It's all sort of intuitive. And when you're animating on the computer, it's like, open this part. Okay, I need this tool. I got to do that.
Because you just want to get it down visually, and you have all this technical stuff to do. Which is stuff you've hated to do since that's why we went art to begin with, to get away from math class. So you're sitting there going, okay, now times 2 and this and that. Okay. I like that you have your peg bar taped to your computer. That's awesome. Draw it off the screen.
That was rough. I wrote the scene out first, but then eventually you're like, you start right once in a while. If you're in a pinch for time, it's pushing.
That's the total convergence of the 2 mediums. You got the computer screen, and you're doing your flip drawings on
over top.
Well, it was a comfort zone. I think it still is. And it's a habit, I can't imagine animating without drawing first. So, I tape a peg bar right up against the screen. I had the layout up, and then I trace the background and trace a couple basic poses, and then I rough it out first on paper and finish it off on the computer.
Something about flipping is calms you down.
Yeah.
There's really nothing between you and your idea you're trying to get across.
Right.
It's the most direct way of thinking about what you're trying to do. That's one of the hugest challenges with the computers. To maintain that spontaneity, even though you're dealing with sometimes hundreds of controls.
Yeah, it's like you're working with a worst assistant ever, who's going to take everything that you do and try to make it dull and boring and wrong all the way through. So you're constantly just trying to control him and not have him ruin your initial ideas, and try to keep some life into what you're doing, because all it wants to do is make it plasticky and in Dead.
Mm-hmm.
These are all insert shots that of Violet that were added afterwards to try to just add a little more intensity. It's really cool. Love that flash frame too that Brad does. He was so adamant about that.
Yeah. I'm gonna hit that.
Even in boards, he had that. That's so Brad. Like even in boards, he had that white flash negative of when the explosion happens. I mean, he knows in his mind he had it already set. You know, the explosion exactly how he wanted it. So by the time he gets to animation, it's no surprise that he also knows where the hand should be on frame 12 and where the leg should be on frame 37.
Everybody calm down. Now I'll tell you what we're not gonna do. We're not gonna panic. We're not gonna look out.
Just shot Rodrigo back to the Spaniards again. Some amazing underwater animation.
Beautiful use of bends and bows on these legs too.
Yeah.
To get the sensation that she's got resistance with the water against her limbs.
They should really rewind and freeze frame through that and just see some of the poses that he's done on the legs as Violet kicking and just how pliable they are.
Yeah, even the knee breaks and stuff. Like it's not actually bending the proper way, but it feels so loose. And
Completely breaking the elbows and
great
knees.
Great cheats.
Amazing. Like we could have pushed it farther in the rest of the movie. Like maybe you could argue that we could have pushed the bend bows or something at certain points in the movie, but you know. But if we had pushed it that far and anywhere else, it wouldn't have looked right.
No one's ever really happy. It seems like the shot's taken away from you more than it's actually final. Johnny Walker comes in and says, "Give me that shot." Not so much you're done with it, because the animator just keeps. I mean, as it goes through and simulation gets added, you just keep seeing all these little things. You're like, "Oh man, can I go back and fix that pinky finger? It's driving me crazy." Someone's gonna notice, and
you'll never hear an animator say with pride, "This shot is done."
Yeah,
you know, like take it from me. There is no more I can do with this.
It's please, can I go in for one more time?
Don't take it, please. Don't take it. No.
Then they get angry when you don't. Come on.
I think that dials into, again, back to Brad again, this notion that it can always be better. You know, he kind of instilled that in our entire team.
Yeah.
Which has been a huge benefit to us, and we'll take it on with us to future shows. I mean, the bar in our department from this movie just, you know, everyone kind of went back to animation, basically grad school, you know.
Well, and the fact that he's an animator, I mean, when a director is an animator, it's kind of, I guess it's like, you know, an actor directing actors. They know what makes you tick, and they know what it is that, you know, how to motivate you, and he appreciates every little bit that you're doing. These little things that go unnoticed are not going unnoticed with him, and he knows that it has an impact, even if the audience isn't really seeing it. You know, really being able to pinpoint it, they feel it, they know why. You know, they just go, "Well, that character's really believable. I really like that." And Brad knows how hard that stuff is to get on the screen. So when someone noticed that you've done that little bit to the nose or the sneer, I remember he'd always come by, "That's really nice, the way that little thing you did with the lid." Was a lot of extra work, but you wanted to do it for him because you knew it had a reason.
You always do the crazy shots. I have no idea how that's done.
It was that stretchy Helen rig. It was all these little points of movement. It was insane. I was a pile of goo on my couch at the end of that shot.
Just like Dash.
Just like Helen.
But those Vipers, there was this whole sequence where they were flying over the ocean and saying, "Oh, we can't find them in the ocean." It was really, really cool. It's too bad that's gone.
I worked on that cave sequence with Helen getting mad at the kids, and Brad said, "Apocalypse Now, man, you got to do that thing where Marlon Brando does that hand nod to Martin Sheen when he asked him, 'What do they think about me?' Martin Sheen goes, 'Oh, they say you're crazy,' and he just kind of acknowledged it with this little hand move, and it was like my one last tribute to Marlon Brando before he died, thanks to Brad. But that was a painful shot in itself too, because I think I went back and forth with Brad on that, because that was another example of him having a specific idea on an acting scene that I myself, because animation, we work from the inside, it's what we feel, what we would do naturally, and he asked me to do something that I felt like, I don't know if I'd naturally do it that way, but it worked, and I broke out of my mode of doing cliche stuff.
Fast as I can. As fast as you can. Stay hidden.
keep each other.
One of the hardest things on this was getting the masks to look good.
Yeah, you couldn't see those in our animation environment, which in hindsight, like we were involved in this early on. I'm amazed that none of us actually, hey, it'd be nice to see the mask.
Well, there's like,
well, they didn't exist.
It was a list
they
of.
Didn't exist.
Oh, that's true. Right.
And there's a list of 5,000 things, and like that was on the list.
Brad had a lot of faith. It's not like if Cameron didn't really knock it out of the park, we really had time to have a senior guy come back and reanimate. He was taking these chances with all of us, and we all knew that. So you wanted to put your best work in there. Everybody pushed themselves.
There's a combination of Ginny and Cameron Miyazaki. He would just like show up in dailies and show the blocking, and Brad would be like, "Yeah, keep going." He has really nice, sensitive instincts towards those quiet acting moments, and then you really feel that he makes the character think kind of from the inside out.
Well, Victor Navone. Victor was particularly skilled at making all the creepy syndrome shots. Yeah, a knack for just making him seem like such a slime ball.
I think he's the only animator with the internet following.
This is true.
Like he really has like presence.
Here's another example of like just him walking up where just the squash and stretch we put in the body and just layering a little bit in really makes him feel loose.
When Syndrome went, everybody was very weirded out because Victor's job was to make Syndrome sort of gross and intimidating. And he got so gross and intimidating that we were all a little skeevied, but that was a plus because Brad was like, that's even better than I thought.
He had actually one iteration where Syndrome licked her face. And
is that over the top?
That evoked a certain reaction from the audience.
This was awesome from the boards. I remember this is just some of that stuff where when Brad first came here and he showed worked on the story reel and they showed it to us, and there's so many shots in this movie where we're like, we have no clue how we do that from all departments. Like, we've never seen that before. We're not sure how we're going to do it, but sure enough, somehow he manages to get you to do it. Mm-hmm. When it comes down to it, it just kind of gets done. Like Mullen's shot here where
this shot, the parachute, yeah.
I mean, that's frame by frame animation. That's not easy stuff.
Look at that. Oh, phenomenal. That was a rough rig for those guys to work with too. I remember that. They were working. It was a hard rig to figure out on the technical side, and then it was a hard rig to work with, and it was just like, but they made it work. You know, like you said, frame by frame, they made it work.
One of the first time I showed Brad some of these tests, this is some of the early swinging tests, and just her in the stretchy mode, the way her arms would behave. I did the first test, and it was very floppy, kind of Fleischer Brothers sort of style. And he's like, no, man, you got to get it so when the arm comes back away from whatever it's doing, it's got to be strong and straight, just because he wanted that contrast between her stretching and her actual physical being of like being
joints in a skeleton.
Yeah.
When I was seeing the reels, this was one of my favorite sequences in the film because you get to see a superhero. She gets into a position with her superpowers where she's got to kind of work her way out of it, and it's kind of
embarrassing.
It's totally embarrassing. So you basically broke this up with Sean Krause and yourself, Rob, and so you split the sequence.
Yeah, this is all Sean Krause.
Sean doing the beginning here.
Yeah, great stuff here.
Reaching for the iPod, and
I just love how she gets deeper and deeper into trouble.
Exactly, yeah. It just escalated. You think, oh, she's in deep trouble now.
Yeah.
And
I remember whole conversations about
now she's in
first she smacks him with the gun, then she smacks the other guy with the with her fist. It's a lot of choreography and figuring this out.
Bill Wise, is a lead articulator. He knew enough early on that he's like, you can't do it the way we used to do these characters. We had to build one rig that we could put into all the different characters because they're all human. So we did a lot of discussions early on and had a lot of arguments about how it should work. And so the nice thing is, even though you're using different models, the base of them is the same, and then you're just adding stuff on top of it. So it wasn't as confusing as it could have been or has been in the past.
There's a Dave Devan shot coming up that so much like Brad. I think Brad probably acted it out for him and nailed it. The one where he walks up. I'm not going.
What does he say?
I'm not gonna leave the king.
It sounds like Brad.
Yeah, the behavior's like, that's amazing.
They spent a whole walkthrough of just laying on the floor, getting up and rubbing their bellies. Wow.
Yeah.
I think we all had to turn at it, I think.
Because it was how does he get, that acting in there if you just listen to the sound, but also, hit the beats of getting up in time and picking up a torch, because that was a story point. He had to walk out of that room with a torch. Which hand does he grab it up with? And there's some logistics there that took some figuring out. So it was really funny to see him and Dave just kind of going at it, trying to figure out what the exact way they should execute the scene. So all this stuff had to get slowed down by like 60%, 20% by the time it got to the big screen. It probably could be slowed down more.
The sense of scale in the film was actually something we struggled with a lot, with like some of the larger vehicles, like the Omnibot and stuff like that. It was always like we would animate and look at it in dailies, and it'd be it'd feel about the right size, and then you'd see it on film, and it's just like it is moving way too quick, and we slowed down so many of our shots because the speed just wasn't right. It just didn't feel heavy enough. That was one of the things we really fought against on the film.
We should talk about the masks too. Oh,
yeah.
We got into production.
Oh yeah, that we couldn't see them in animation.
Well, what was the initial plan coming back from development? Was it that they tied behind their head, they went over their ears? Did you guys go through a bunch of different iterations?
I think the mask came later or something. I'm not sure. Didn't it happen? It was a story point, and then
it became an issue. I think as I got more into it, that they had to have something to hide their identity.
Yeah.
Like Clark Kent had his glasses, but he didn't want Bob wearing glasses.
Yeah.
And
then it became, I think, a lot of masks, comic books didn't necessarily have strings or any kind of, they just kind of stick to the face.
Well, we couldn't even do it anyway. I mean, tying it over hair and
it would have
been cheating. It would have just been impossible. Or it wouldn't have looked cool anyway. We could have done it, but it was weird. But then, a lot of our brow expressions, because we couldn't see it while we were animating, got a little messed up, and we'd have to make these passes afterwards to kind of clean up and keep the shape simplified.
Yeah, sometimes the expression we'd lose it, or if we had the brows too high, it looked like some other, like someone painted this black over their eyebrows.
Yeah, there was a huge argument in the story about having the guards have robotic power armor that Mark Andrews, battle armor, which I always thought was a really cool idea. But Brad's argument was he didn't want it to seem like they were invincible, and he kind of wanted this sort of stormtrooper stooge, expendable, subcontractor that worked for Syndrome. Brad had this idea about lighting here, where the highlights of all the characters in this room, this location, would all be blown out, similar to kind of overexposed Gordon Willis lighting in Godfather. This is a Bolam again here.
Yeah.
There isn't, in fact.
So this is as dark as Bob gets here.
Why are you here?
It's pretty creepy.
This is another case where, in 2D, in the boards they were drawn, he grabs her by the neck.
Yeah.
And you can get away with it for some reason, but you start seeing the real flesh and wrap those hands around that little tiny neck. It looked like
it was too
didn't
much.
look right. It looked really disturbing.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of have him grab really her cheek with a couple fingers and then have a couple fingers around her neck.
Helen? Andy Schmidt did that shot, and he called me into his room. He's like, I want to shoot some reference for it. And I smacked him about 4 times before he was like, no, man, I really want you to hit me. And I was like, okay. And we were recording, and I hauled off and hit him in the face. And he's like, that's perfect. And he went back and he used it for that scene.
Wow.
I was like,
wow, that's dedication.
How many kisses did Andy Schmidt do in the film?
Yeah.
I think almost every time.
5
kiss.
kisses?
Yeah, that was almost a running joke after a while. They do another kiss.
We were worrying about that early on because I'd never seen a kiss in like CG that I felt any warmth about. It was always like kind of like, ooh.
Yeah.
One thing, not seeing the contact helped on a lot of them. And then when we had one where you do see the lips meet, it was fine too.
Oh yeah, you had
the one that Pete Stone did.
Yeah,
like
at the end.
And how
very
hard was
careful.
that? I mean, Bob, just design-wise, you get to the moment where they have to kiss and you realize his nose is too big for his lips to meet Helen's. So they're like at least 5 inches away, their lips in reality. So that's an entire cheat. If you rotated the camera around to the other side, their face looked like
Not even
maybe
touch it.
That kiss, the final battle kiss. I remember Brad using that tool all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Get it on the lip. I mean, it was ultra specific, where he wanted like the shape, Bob's lip to be squared off here, and it was really pretty clear.
Oh boy, here we go, 100-mile dash.
This thing I blasted out in a week.
A lot of it was just trying to figure out how Dash runs at super speeds.
Jim Murphy was awesome.
Yeah, he went and did a really great run cycle.
Getting it from motion blur. There's a special motion blur that's happening here to, Brad always said that like a hummingbird feel once he got to a certain speed.
Mm-hmm. And there was something, it's a how many frame run cycle? Like a 8-frame run cycle? Or something that's like down to 2 frames?
Aren't they done? Didn't they use frames in between frames?
Yeah, so it's literally a 2-frame run cycle with about 8 poses on the subframes, like within the frame, so that the blur can work properly. Nice debris animation by Mad Dog there.
Our manager. That's what I mean by everybody picking up a little bit. Even our manager was animating. That's what Brad does to you. He somehow gives you these puppy dog eyes, like, please don't ruin my movie. Can you just put that little piece of debris in there?
Right. Oh, this shot. How many times have we animated this shot?
What's that?
I think everyone took a stab at it. It was
It's the story about Angus with the Brad story about the dance.
Oh, the guard that slams into the cliff?
Yeah.
That Brad, Angus had animated him like he, gets him knocked off, and Brad wanted like a kind of quality to the guy before he hits the cliff. And I think Angus animated him doing a dance at one point, and then
butter churn kind of thing.
Yeah, and then being like butter churn. Yeah, dude, I'm churning the butter, and then all kinds of other funny takes. And Brad just went off because we thought it was the funniest thing. And he's like, yeah, it's funny, but it doesn't work for the movie. Like, we're like, come on. Like, we kind of like wish back, and he got up and ranted. Yeah. Went up another rant, goes down to the front theater. It's going to take you out of the context of the movie. You're going to laugh at him, and you're not going to, it's just, you're laughing. It's just amazing. You're laughing at him.
We're always trying to, you're always trying to push things, even in the trailer. That's a case where Brad, again, being Brad, let us, gave us the premise and said, come back to me in a week and just pitch me all the ideas you're thinking that Bob could practice putting on his belt, and we all sat down, and I think it got to like a Chris Farley level where he basically
rolling around on his desk.
Yeah, he destroyed the whole office, and which we thought was hysterical. And Brad, come on,
he's not a buffoon.
Yeah, he's not an idiot. Come on, back off a bit. But he was always, we'd always go a little farther, and he tried to.
But he liked that. He'd rather us go far and pull back.
Yeah.
Than the other way around. It's tougher. Prodding someone to go farther is much trickier.
I love that shot. Just that's when her superpower really kicks in, when she jumps in front of her brother to save him.
But it's cool, like the way that they're using all their powers together to, and it really comes together in the end of the film. But they're like starting to learn that here is that wow, we can all work together.
Here come the Spaniards again.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Again, Israelite in that too. A couple of scenes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's fun.
Multicultural animation primarily. Really are. Yeah, that punch. When Bob punches that thing, I was just like, whoa.
We have to talk about Mark Andrews a bit with this too.
I think only non-Americans worked on that, just sequence.
Spanish and Dutch. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. It was Spanish and Dutch.
But this is I remember being in layout reviews with Mark Andrews, head of story, and this is just him and Brad, their relationship. They just start riffing off how Syndrome could make an entrance here. And Mark's, this is just something he came with off the top of his head. It was just, how about, when Violet puts the force field on the Velocipod, the bullet shells fill up the Velocipod force fields till it's entirely full, and then when Syndrome steps in, it freezes it. All the shells pour off all over the ground, and you cut to Syndrome's feet kind of walking through the shells. Everything about it. There's so many awesome moments where those guys would be pitching these great ideas. It was just how many of the ideas could we shove in the film in time? If they could keep going, it would be that much better. Just they always had something to plus it.
I like in the whole superhero mythos how in this film, just as in a story like Batman, the superhero creates the supervillain inadvertently. And I thought that Brad's take on combining that idea with the sidekick, the great history of sidekicks like Robin and Bucky of Captain America was really a nice idea.
I like this laugh on the way out. The way the chest comes up, he's laughing, he's rising up, and then he like leans into the walk to storm out. I love that.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I really like doing that.
Blue Dog. Everybody has. There's the
Jesus
/ Steve Hunter.
So Bill Scheffler built this little blazer. We agonized for days and days on how that would actually work. And how the Omnibot opens was this thing we nerded out about for months, about how the different stages of its arms opening, and that's the only shot you're actually seeing.
What was it like animating the final battle?
It came at the perfect time because it was the last sequence in the movie. So it really was the final battle for us.
Yeah, it really was.
Every department was involved, and we had daily meetings with every department, trying not to step on each other's toes because we're all in it together.
Yeah.
And we always inevitably stepped on each other's toes. And
set dressing was trying to work around us as we're animating to try to figure out if the Omnibot's walking, where do we put the footprints that it's, not concrete. They were constantly honest about that. Can you animate it now? No. Can you animate it now? No.
I'm sure they'd say the same about us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Could you just let us set dress it?
No.
At that point, everybody's tired, and you're trying to get it done. And you look at it, and just, you could keep going back into stuff we would, and have more damage and more ground exploding, and more army men, and more just destruction.
So here's an example where originally this whole scene with the van was added, and I think it's awesome, but that was all just to draw attention to the fact that there was this RV, because originally it was just sitting in the hangar and we were supposed to notice it, but
right. They had to point it out to people so that you...
a great mistake that it happened because you get this great scene out of it here.
Yeah.
That's where Brad would take a note where it's like, we need an RV, and not just throw it into the story. Okay, here it is. We got story point. And
Move on.
They'll deliver the line, and look, there's an RV. He actually ties it into the story.
It makes it entertaining.
Yeah,
it really makes it entertaining.
Brad had the idea that what was really successful in superhero type story movies was the becoming of something. That once you were the character, it wasn't as exciting as becoming the superhero. So Dash on the Velocipod is him discovering his powers.
Yay, Mirage.
Brad was the first director to actually write the film himself, to be the sole writer on it. And you get these great lines, and you'd be animating to them, and often an animator would go, who wrote that line? And it got to a point where it became a joke, because Brad would be, insulted that, come on, you don't think I could write that line? Everybody keeps asking me, who wrote that line? You don't think I can write it? You saying I'm credit, right? I'm good at what?
Sam Jackson was thinking about that, right?
No, I wrote it. So this is a great way to kind of get them all fired up. I'm just like, hey, who wrote that, by the way, Brad?
I remember before the film came out, we got all this heat off the internet. There's people on the internet on this website that'll remain nameless were complaining about the lip sync. Brad was like, those people know what the hell they're talking about. Because this is some of the best stuff, I think, in the movie right here.
One of the hardest things in CG is just to get that tactfulness, that people touching other people or other things. It's really rough. It's really hard to do.
This is Victor here doing Syndrome.
Really cool effect, and all the tie-in of the colors and effects being the same colors, the Omnibot shooting out, and it's kind of coming from the same creator right through design.
It's a very technical kind of model. You see what it entails is that each arm has about 30 points along its length in which you can manipulate through space and time. The hell can I say about it? It's like,
No one wants to hear about all this
you put the hand, you stretch the arm out,
nightmare.
It's a
So this Omnibot actually has 6 arms as opposed to 5, the other 2 Omnibots. That's the only difference. Oh, and it has a laser.
Yeah.
And the eye is different. It's basically the same.
It's funny in these simple shots how we just spent so much time on the face just trying to get the lip sync right and the expressions right and just trying to keep it subtle and not over the top, I probably spent most of my time on the show just trying to get the faces right. just working on all the subtlety that we could get in with these rigs. It was amazing.
It was never enough.
It was never done.
Yeah.
You know, your work was never done. I never felt like there was a shot on the film where I got it right.
I think Helen would look the most doll-like. Because of just the way her face is built, and you could sink a lot of work into trying to get it to look soft and alive, and it always seemed like an uphill battle to me.
Well, with Helen too, it's like, you know, it's like I said before, because she's not caricatured. And her features are actually somewhat plain. They sort of float inside the surface of her face. She can go off model like that, like super quick. And that was a big struggle for me working with her. It was just trying to keep her on model and figure out what's on model with her. Everybody was struggling with that.
I'm sure Brad's going to talk about this, but I just love the fact that they're doing superhero stuff, but they're doing it as a family. And they're like, everything comes down to them, like just family things, arguing over directions. You know, it's amazing.
All these scenes we had to cut down 10%, 20%.
Yeah.
All these.
Because they were too quick.
Yeah.
They were it was looking like a toy. And then we slowed it way down again.
It wasn't until we saw it on the big screen, you know.
Yeah. Monitor at your desk really fools you.
Everyone's worked on the whole movie, and then now the action stuff comes up, and you all know the characters, you know what to do, and you get the scene, and you have a really short time to do it, and it's a very active scene, and you feel more comfortable throwing the character around and doing this and that. You can kind of get it out faster because of how well you know the character by then.
I think it's on the Omnibot.
You pretty much animated the Omnibot through this whole sequence, didn't you?
Yep. There's a few. Warren did a few shots, and Rob, you did a few at the end.
Yeah.
It was just great, the relationship between JW and eBird.
Yep.
That the fact that they could kind of have it out over things and
still respect each other.
Yeah. In
the morning, yeah.
So Kiss coming up here.
Kiss is probably the hardest thing to animate I can think of as far as believability, because you have to believe that these are two people kissing and not these robot automatons. I've seen other CG movies with kisses that don't work so well.
There you go.
There's the
That's pretty sexy kiss. Come on. Peter Sonley.
Together. You won't have to be.
I don't know what will happen.
Hey, we're superheroes. What could happen?
So, on the bot here, I mean, you did a whole first pass on this thing, and then went back through and just redid a lot of it because of the weight, wasn't it?
Yeah, I still don't think it's heavy enough. The problem is we get shots out of layout, and they would do the best guess they could about how long the shot should be, but I think we had no idea how long how much time. So we'd get 40 frames. We really needed 80 frames.
Yeah. Task of animating.
Oh, that's a thankless task. John, you did a great job of that. Bob flying through a building.
But I have this guilty pleasure of animating debris.
Yeah.
Somebody animated that debris. That's amazing.
A lot of that debris you see is from this one shot that John did with Bob getting smashed, and I took the debris after that and started adding in my shots, and it just sort of spread like wildfire. People were just like, "Yeah, you gotta sweeten your shot. You gotta sweeten your shot." Everybody started putting in debris. It's all because of that, that shot. That was
really nice debris. It really adds so much to the animation. I think the robot is animated. I did that, but the debris I didn't do, and I think that really adds the most. That shot.
That was the first debris shot where oh my god.
I remember saying to John, you know what, you're wasting your time. And John's like, no way, this is totally gonna be worth it, and you were so right. It looked so great.
That last shot with the arm falling was another one where it's the weight is perfect. We spent so much time in the sequence, everybody attacked the sequence all together. It was all hands on deck, and everybody was just doing everything. It's here, do some cars here, do some debris here, take a shot here, do, Helen here, do this here, do whatever. And it's just, it's crazy.
Oh, nice work. That was Dave Mullins there. This is a Jeannie animating the speed skating Frozone, which is so well animated.
And she had several versions of that, and Brad kept asking her, make it faster, make it faster.
Yeah. She's like, you're nuts. I remember talking. She's like, he's crazy. What are you talking about? And
he's totally right.
Always right.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the Mazinger Z flying fist shot, and then Mullins animated all that, him trying to reach the bracelet.
Oh, good hockey stop by Sean.
There you go. Was he looking at Bobby Orr when he did that?
He was.
Okay, see that inside his neck there is actually the Underminer's claw, because he had no interior of his robot existing. So I Frankenstein the Underminer inside the robot for that one shot.
You know what? It was really fun to work on this. Is it luck? We're lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in at Cal Arts in school, and some of the guys were working on Iron Giant, like Pete, I think was a senior when I was a freshman, and just seeing pieces of that and finally seeing the completed movie and then hearing that Brad was going to be at Pixar was just like, I must work on Brad's next film.
I love the fact that their superpowers match. I'm sure Brad will talk about this, but just their character, that, you know, Helen is this overextended mom, and she's Elastigirl as a superhero, and Violet's kind of insecurities, you know, and the fact that her ability is to turn invisible. Again, it's just as an animator, that you really have a lot to kind of draw from.
Mm-hmm. I think we got to talk a little bit too about the skates.
I'm just thinking about the fact that Brad's like, we built the skis.
Yeah, exactly. And we're 7 Well, okay, but go back, because the thing was, he wanted the skates in there, because I remember seeing the ski model. Where's the skis? Where are we going to see them? And he's like, we're like, Brad, skis aren't cool anymore.
It's hard to know.
This is like better arguing about whether their skis were cool.
60s, man. Now everybody snowboards.
Everybody still wants snowboarding. And then finally that's what it came down to. Is like, all right, we'll put them in, you know, for 6 frames, and then it turns into the disc. But the arguments over that was so much fun.
That was Mike Venturini, the animator. He was so reluctant to put in the skis. Yeah. He's like, and he would act out, you know, slaloming. How is this cool? Me wiggling my butt. Like, that's not cool. Frozone's cool. He's a snowboarder.
See that?
Oh.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's old school.
Oh, boys.
No school like the old school.
What do you say about that?
There's nothing to say about that. Well, if you don't know who they are, we're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Nothing to say.
They've frozen all of Syndrome's assets. If he even sneezes, we'll be there with a hanky and a pair of handcuffs. People of this country are indebted to you.
Does this? Bud Lucky, right? Doing the voice.
Yeah, who did Bounded?
It's funny with that dialogue. We kept having to reduce it. Remember?
Yep.
It's like the more phonetic it got, it just didn't work.
Didn't fit his character.
Almost like a puppet.
Yeah.
I love this, the peel of the
cute Violet look right there. It's such a cute smile.
That's Patty.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, that was Patty Kim.
That's the great thing about the kind of versatility of the department. The fact that, you know, that was done by a female animator, and the kind of appeal and charm of her playing with her hair and smiling at her dad. I don't think, you know, it's awesome that you had a female animator do that. I don't know if the guy would have really nailed it as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
he would have done
what he thinks
a girl would. Yeah.
We cast her on that shot because we knew she did the last shot in Toy Story 2 of Bullseye.
Yeah.
Where she's like, you know, he's got Andy written on the bottom of his feet, and then he spins him around and spells him right. It's just like, that's cute.
Yeah, really cute.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Here's Hunter. I mean, here's John Carr's animating Hunter right here. Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
You took away my future. Simply returning the favor. Oh, don't worry. I'll be a good mentor.
And then there's this thing here that is just John Carr's right there.
Yeah.
That is so John Carr's. I've gotten that look numerous times from him.
It was kind of like Hopper from Bug's Life.
Yeah.
Remember when?
He's getting away, Bob.
This was, again, back to where we're like, how are we going to do this? You know, like, Stretch Your Arm Helen was hard enough, but how are we going to get this little monster to transform into... And again, it took a Spaniard.
Yeah.
Again, it took a Spaniard. And he just went to town on this one. Rodrigo Blas, kicking it out of the park.
This is 2 models, it just merged into one, and technically a mess and a nightmare, but just cheating things as much as possible. Get the look that he wants, you know, graphically.
Yep.
Scaling up hands and shrinking them, and eyes and mouth, and just going crazy.
It's actually one model lerping between with a control that changes it from Jack Jack into the Jack Jack monster, and he just lerped it on right. I think we did a lot to like scale the body up and the head and scale the head down so that the head stayed the same size, but then like
yeah,
there's a lot of little things we did there. Ugh.
I know it's a movie, it's something that's pretty commercial, but wow, it doesn't feel like that when you're working with Brad. It really feels like it's like an experience that is I don't know. I'll keep it with me for a long time.
Well, it's about, I think it's about real stuff that happens to all of us. And, you know, whether or not it's a popcorn movie or a drama or a comedy or action adventure or whatever, Brad really cared about it being pretty honest. And I think that made it fun for all of us to work on, because we had to think about our own lives as we were doing it. And, you know, and Brad was thinking about his life and everybody's life. And so in the end, I think you just felt like you worked on something that really was about life. And that made it feel like it mattered.
There's our 6-year Tony Ridinger.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to have like what he used to look like. DVD.
And the many versions. Many versions of Tony.
Tony's got some issues with his teeth. Yeah, we really had to go in and studify him. He was a little bit too geeky for a lot of people.
Well, there's just a certain point, I mean, where you can only push one model, you know, one universal man so far.
Right.
And we had made, you know, principals and teachers and all sorts of people, all different ages, Frank and Ollie, kids, and just there's a certain subtlety to, especially to kind of like softer featured, you know, kids or females that couldn't hold up all the way, so we had to make a second pass at it.
Give him a little extra love.
Yeah.
So that we could animate him better.
But, you know, it bothers us, you know, because you want to be able to nail this stuff and make it perfect in every shot. And we can kind of go through this and you wince at certain characters and here and there. But Brad was always good at holding us back and kind of prioritizing what's important in the shot, you know, what the audience is really, really watching and trying to hit that first, you know.
Right.
Just
that's how we did a lot of the background stuff, was just throwing it in and then, okay, that one stands out. That one is busted.
Yeah, exactly.
Go in and tweak it.
So we could spend the time on the hero characters, the main guys. Tony's last.
Tony's last scene.
Tony finishing off.
Come on, Karina. You got stuff to say about it.
What?
About Brad.
He really was like a slap in the face. He came in and for the first couple months when we were all on Monsters, you're like, who is this guy? And he's brought in his own crew and we don't know who he is. And, you know, because for the most part, Pixar has sort of cultivated their own talent from the inside. And so to have this guy come in, and they hadn't introduced us at all. And until he actively kind of brought animation in and showed us his work, we had no contact with him.
But then we realized that the people he brought in were just amazingly talented.
Yeah.
And even the animators, I've learned a lot from the animators he brought in. And it was nice to see a difference. You know, because every day we go into dailies. I go into dailies a lot, not only to show my shots, but because you kind of want to, you're always looking for that one thing that inspires you. And I think that's what it's about. And our department's always been collaborative. You know, I think we're our worst critics, but I think that's why we always raise the bar on ourselves, because there's always something better out there.
Yeah, when you went into dailies, almost every shot you saw was an inspiration, right?
Especially on Incredibles.
And it would just make you work harder.
I just wanted to say about when Brad came, we were all working on Finding Nemo, and he was kind of gearing up. They were in story and stuff for Incredibles, and it was starting up, and we were still hiring more people for Incredibles. And it was amazing, and it was so inspiring how much Brad would come down into our department, and he would talk to different animators, and whenever you saw him, he would be like, I love your stuff, and you know, we're gotta get you on Incredibles, and we got great stuff for you. You're gonna do great stuff. And so already on Nemo, you're already getting fired up for the next thing you're gonna do, and you just couldn't wait to get on Incredibles.
I just remember like in dailies, like just hashing this stuff out too. One of the things that's so cool about this place is just everybody pitches in. It makes a great film.
It's like a family.
It's like a big dysfunctional family.
Yeah. It's like the movie. It's like
It's
the
an
animation
animator
department
dysfunctional
is a
family.
metaphor for the
We're all
movie.
closer now.
I really had a great time working with you guys.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I like working with everybody but John.
He's just too talkative.
Yeah, I don't know if you said
He
it.
just would never shut up.
We'll hear it. We're gonna hear about it later.
If I could pick a project to work on, this would be it. It was like you just see the reels, and it was just so amazing. From the first time you saw it, you're just like, this is going to be outstanding.
I was fortunate to get to work on this film, and I was fortunate to get to work with you, Dave.
It was okay. We'll do it better. We'll do it right next time.
Yeah, next time.
Yeah.
When the Incredibles battles the robotic pirates.
Yeah.
It was like animation school every day in dailies. Seriously.
And he always fostered just like this attitude of just, you know what, everybody pitches in, everybody's idea is valid, you know, just everybody support everybody else and we'll make a great film. You know, just put your egos away and just concentrate on the work and let it be about that. And I think for most part, that's what ended up happening on the film. Is like everybody was so into the film that everybody's put aside whatever petty differences that anybody had and just did the film. And I think the whole company is like, the whole studio's closer now. I mean, we're closer with modeling than we've ever been. It's like, it really brought a lot of people together. It's amazing.
It's a big love fest.
It is.
Yeah. The whole idea about everybody loved the film, so they wanted it to be better. And at every step of the way, the old Disney films were made was at every single portion of every step of the stage of the production, people would add to it. And I felt that everyone in this production just gave a little bit more than they could because they loved the story so much. And Brad basically shows you what it could be, or gives you a glimpse of what the film could be. And so you push yourself to be more. And I know that emotionally, this film was really difficult for all the animators because they wanted it to be so good. People worked so hard on it because they wanted to do more work. They wanted, when the film was done, that they could have more ownership.
Yeah, you want to feel
huge stress.
You want to make sure you were really proud of what you put into the film, that you knew you put everything you had into it.
It was pretty stressful to.
Well, and I mean, it was, and it wasn't rosy in the beginning, and we were battling, and we were battling with you know, with modeling, we were battling with articulation, we were all battling, but it was because we all wanted the same thing, which was cool.
And I think we became to.
Yeah, and everybody just, I mean, we just all like got thrown into a big cement mixer and just like, all right, hash it out, and we came up with so much stuff that's just.
But it was always about trying to make the film as good as it possibly could be.
Yeah. It wasn't about like, I'm better than you. It was just like, why?
Yeah.
You
and
how are we gonna do that? I don't know how we're gonna do that. Well,
there were a lot of debates too, like when we're in the articulation reviews and we're saying we need another 2 weeks for Helen's face, and they're like, okay, well, we know we've got this huge film to make. Where's that money coming from? They had this popsicle stick board that they had up
if
there.
you spend 2 more weeks on Helen, you don't get it. Squeaker the cat in the beginning.
Yeah.
There was a huge argument about that, and then we almost didn't get Squeaker the cat. And then I was
didn't Dooley go in and like
he passed it. I think then someone else built it again.
Yeah.
But I pitched the idea of not having Squeaker the cat.
Yeah.
And you just see him off screen like it didn't fly.
Yeah.
But it would have been cheaper.
But I remember that was probably one of the most stressful days for me on the film, was that final review for Helen. I was dying. Dying. I mean, I hadn't really done a lot of articulation before, especially here. I mean, I had some, but it was a huge challenge, and just like sitting there like, that's it, we don't have any more time. It's like, well, we need more time. We haven't perfected.
Yeah, we never felt like there was enough time to get stuff done, but they did an amazing job getting done what they did. They spent less time building these characters than on a lot of previous films, and I think they got like, easily, so much more out of these guys than on characters previously.
Yep.
Oh, all I can say is thanks for Brad Bird for coming here and making this movie.
Yeah, that was a great experience.
Thanks for getting him up here.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thanks for buying the DVD.
Yeah. Yeah, we really appreciated it.
It's really cool. You know,
really nice of you.
Don't get any real.
Sorry about that, all that talking and stuff. You should press the other button, you get to listen to the movie.
Yeah, you can press stop now.
I'd rather listen to that than honestly.
I think they should press stop now.